First, we want to congratulate EucoLight members for the collective achievement of 2 billion lamps in Europe, and we are very proud that our contribution has been 250 million lamps recycled by Ambilam in Spain. From the beginning of our activity in 2005, we understood that the collection of lamps required to bring the containers as close as possible to citizens. For this, we developed a network with more than 35,000 collection points in the small shops and big retailers in the cities, as well as in faraway areas, providing our collection service to all Spanish territory. We also supply thousands of industrial containers to big generators of lamps, like big buildings, industries, installers, or electrical wholesalers, providing a good logistic service qualified 9 on 10 by the collection points. But we learned that a large collection network and a good logistic service is not enough. To motivate citizens for lamps collections, it's necessary to inform them about the location of the containers and to explain and convince why it's so important to recycle lamps. To do this, we developed an application to localize the closer container, and we made several communication campaigns in cooperation with the Spanish administration. As a result, the Ambilam collection target has been achieved, recuperating as well 87% of the weight collected, closing in this way the loop of the circular economy principle. In the coming years, we must continue the growth of collection and recycling in Spain, so we plan to increase again the number of collection points and at the same time to launch new communication campaigns. But the best waste is the one which is not produced. For that reason, we are also contributing to our producers in the prevention of waste generation. Till now, many producers destroy the obsolete stock of non-used products. Ambilam is creating a donations platform named AmbiPlace where producers and NGOs can easily and safely connect for the donation of that stock, instead of destroying it. Thank you for your participation in this event, and we hope that the next 2 billion lamps recycled in Europe can be celebrated with a face-to-face meeting altogether.
Buongiorno, I'm Fabrizio D'Amico. I'm the general manager of EcoLamp, the first Italian scheme in this country to collect exhausted lamps since 2008. Actually, the scheme has been founded in 2004 by the main producers in Italy, in Europe and in the world of lighting sources. This happened because, as you know, the European Parliament had adopted special directives in order to regulate the collection and treatment of the exhausted electric and electronic equipment. This happened in Italy as well as in other European countries. Since then, the scheme began operating in 2008 and the collection from there on has developed a lot. Currently, we collect 1,600 tons of exhausted lamps each year. And from 2008, we collected more than 169 million pieces of exhausted lamps, corresponding to more than 20,000 tons of exhausted waste. This is a big achievement in our view because nothing had been established before this and has been a big contribution to the development of the so-called circular economy, which is the main target for the forthcoming years in our continent, in Europe. Italy has been developing a large network of collection channels, particularly for exhausted boats. We currently serve more than 2,000 collection centers all over the country, and these collection centers are normally owned and run by the Italian municipalities with which we have a specific agreement, but we also serve technical operators such as the installers who also benefit of our voluntary services called extra lamp or waste-in services. That's very important. It's been a big achievement, but it's not enough in our view because we want to achieve the target which has been set up by the directives, and this is the main effort we are trying to produce over the next years.
Bom dia, good morning. My name is Pedro Nazaré. I am the General Manager of Eletrão, a producer responsibility organization operating in Portugal and responsible for the collection and recycling of electronics, batteries, and packaging wastes. lamp collection and recycling is also a very important and significant part of our day-to-day activity. This is why more than 500 companies have contracted lamp collection and recycling compliance with Eletron over the last 5 years, and these companies have been responsible for placing on the Portuguese market more than 5,000 tons of lamps. Eletron, during the same period, was able to collect and recycle more than 2,000 tons of lamps, with a recycling rate of more than 87%, which make us very proud, of course, and with the support of our treatment partners. We are perfectly aware that being proud of the recycling rate, the collection rate has to be improved, and because it is lagging behind our national and European ambitions in terms of lamp collection. And this is why we are putting forward two main strategies. On one hand, we will keep on the investment in communication and awareness raising campaigns, educating the Portuguese people, the Portuguese companies, the different communities that used lamps or discarded lamps have to be separated and have to be placed on the collection points available so that Eletron could do its job of forwarding them to recycle. On the other hand, we will keep on improving our collection network, not only in terms of available collection points, but also in terms of the quality of service that these collection points allow for the common Portuguese citizen. And the level of service, I mean being near, being convenient, being clean, and also allowing for a very frequent logistics for collection. And these are the two main strategies that we are putting forward that will allow us to reach a higher level of collection and hopefully a much more significant contribution to our collection and recycling national ambitions in terms of lamps. Stay safe.
I am Béla Kovács, Managing Director of Electrocord. My special personal feature is that if I see a discarded lamp wherever, I would pick it up and take it to the recovery plant. This is pretty much an everyday task for me because I manage the company that recycles used lamps in Hungary. This company is called Electrocord. We are very proud that we have managed to involve both traders and consumers in the lamp waste collection. We have been able to make the collection easily accessible to consumers, which we mainly organize with the involvement of traders. How? All stores that sell lamps in the country, from DIY stores to grocery stores, everyone has put out lamp collection containers. To avoid this being a burden for them, we had to build a strong infrastructure, which means handling and regularly emptying 40 types of collection containers, totaling nearly 40,000 pieces. This way, we were able to implement circular economy in lighting. In the last 16 years, we have collected and recycled nearly 70 million lamps. This means we collect 4 million lamps a year, preventing 3 liters of toxic mercury to go out into the environment. The waste will become a useful industrial raw material. Huge amounts of glass and metal are recovered, from which fluorescent tubes, lamp ports and scent substitutes are made. We are proud that Hungarian lighting technology can now develop in such a way that we can take care of the entire life cycle of all lighting products, together with manufacturers, traders and users. Viszontlátásra. Goodbye.
Good morning. My name is Giet van Hoorn. I'm the Managing Director of Lightrek in the Netherlands. We are very proud to have our fair share in the collection of 2 billion lamps in Europe by the EucoLight partners. Lightrek was founded in 2003 and we now serve more than 730 participants in the Netherlands, being producers and importers of lighting equipment. In the meantime, we realized more than 13,000 collection points in the Netherlands, at municipalities, but also in the retail, supermarkets, do-it-yourself stores, garden centers, but also wholesalers for professionals. We also have special projects for professionals like installers and construction companies. In the meantime, we also invested a lot in communication and PR events to convince people to collect in the right way. This results in a National Recycle Week every year in October. We are convinced that we have a good base to continue our efforts during the coming 10 years and to fulfill our obligations to collect luminaires and lamps in the future, especially fluorescent lamps, conventional lamps like energy-saving lamps. We think that EucoLight is a very inspirational organization to help us and to help each other to have a circular economy in the future and to leave the world behind better than we found it.
Bună dimineața! I am Bela Kovac, Managing Director of EucoLight, the company which is famous of collecting and recycling discarded lamps in Romania. Few people know that Romania was among the first to use electric lighting in the 1880s. From this, we might think it was easy to start the selective lamp waste collection. Well, in 2007, when we started selective collection, was just a combination of two words with little importance to authorities and citizens. In this context, EucoLight played a pioneer role in disseminating the concept of selective waste collection and recycling. We have come a long way for the last 13 years. One of the strategic campaigns is dedicated to Romanian electricians. It has also become traditional. 8 years after its launch, EucoLight created a reliable and solid relationship with electrical professionals and collected hundreds of tons of waste. We work hard to make our collection point network known to everyone. Therefore, we were the first in Romania who developed an application that indicates the closest collection point to the waste owner. In 2020, this application won an award in Romania as one of the most innovative solutions in this market. There are already over 1,000 active users, which means at least 1,000 light bulbs have reached the recycling plant. We know it's not enough, but every piece counts for us. In 2021, we will continue our mission, fighting for our collection goals, but we are confident that the difficulties will also bring new opportunities. We are very optimistic. La vedere. Goodbye.
Well, so as I have said before, just keep in mind that this is just a short example of the actual 19 different countries that form EucoLight. Well, now moving out from that video, I hope everybody has a clear idea now that we're here celebrating the recycling of the 2 billionth lamp in Europe. But what does those 2 billion lamps actually really mean in numbers? We have produced a very short video that tries to explain and put some interesting numbers and figures into this important achievement. We hope you find it really interesting.
EucoLight is a European association that brings together extended producer responsibility organizations with more than 15 years of experience specializing in managing and recycling lighting products. 19 countries, 19 organizations, united by the environment and committed to contributing to the circular economy through recycling lighting products. The countries comprising EucoLight are Austria, Belgium, Czech Republic, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Italy, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain, the Netherlands, and the United Kingdom. The work carried out by each PRO and our joint international efforts now allow us to celebrate a significant milestone, the recycling of the 2 billionth lamp. Or to put it another way, we've recycled so many lamps they would fill 1,680 Wembley stadiums or fill St. Peter's at the Vatican 527 times. If we placed all these lamps along a line, we'd go around the world 5 times, or reach the height of 617 2,083 Eiffel Towers. It's the weight of 145 London Eyes. Imagine more than 200 Olympic pools filled with lamps. That's how much we've recycled. But what does this milestone mean for the circular economy and the environment? Thanks to the recycling of those 2 billion lamps, we've prevented raw materials from being extracted from nature. And we've reclaimed 80,000 tons of glass, equivalent to 219 million wine bottles. We've also obtained 40,000 tons of metal, equivalent to 5.5 Eiffel Towers. And we've prevented the manufacture of 4,000 tons of plastic, which would be the equivalent of 74 million half-litre bottles. All this without forgetting about the proper processing and handling of the mercury obtained from fluorescent lights, bulbs and tubes. These 2 billion recycled lamps are clearly a milestone for EucoLight and for the planet. But they're just the beginning to achieve a future which is 100% sustainable. Together, we'll achieve it.
Thank you, dear members. Thank you, David, for these videos that are showcasing what actually the collection of the 2 billion lamp represent from all corners of Europe. Please let me introduce our next speaker this morning. This is Mrs. Urania Gheorghiu. Urania is Lighting Europe Secretary General. And Lighting Europe is an important partner for EucoLight, as the producers are for our members. Urania is Lighting Europe Secretary General since 2017, and she's very committed to sustainability of lighting product. This morning, Urania is going to lead us to lighting producer responsibility to contribute to circular economy. Urania, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mark, and good morning also from my side. Thank you to all of you for joining us today to celebrate what is an amazing achievement of 2 billion lamps, and a warm thank you to all the partners and all the friends in EucoLight and in the producer responsibility organizations across Europe for the great collaboration and the hard work to deliver on this amazing milestone. As Mark said, my name is Urania Gheorghiu. I'm Secretary General of Lighting Europe. To briefly introduce who I represent, in the next slide, please. Lighting Europe is the trade association representing the manufacturers of lighting products from across Europe. So the companies that make the light bulbs, the luminaires, the electronic components that goes into the lighting that you have in your house, that you see in the streets, in road tunnels, in warehouses, in supermarkets. In the good old days, you saw them in airports and in your offices as well, as you can still remember. We are 30 members, a mix of companies and national associations. And together, all of this industry from across Europe came in Lighting Europe and set out the vision that you can see in the next slide, please, of how Europe's lighting industry can deliver the value of lighting for people, for the planet, and for European manufacturing. The first step is, in the previous one still, please, the first step is clearly with the delivery of more durable, more energy efficient, and more sustainable products, and LED technology is really helping us achieve that objective. The next big benefit to people will be the rollout of intelligent lighting systems, so systems that have the controls integrated, that can react to daylight, can react to the presence of someone in a space. The ultimate objective is to deliver human-centric lighting, so lighting that is specific to every individual's need, to the time of day, to the activity we're doing, because lighting has a direct impact on our biology, has a direct link with it. For example, a 70-year-old person needs twice as much light as a 35-year-old because of the natural aging of our eyes. Next slide, please. 2 billion lamps, that's a great achievement. And again, warm congratulations to everyone in EucoLight and in all the producer responsibility schemes across Europe for helping us get there. It takes a lot of hard work, a lot of communication, a lot of talking, a lot of energy to keep collecting and recycling lighting products. Lighting Europe members, our manufacturers, take our responsibilities to the planet very seriously. We acknowledge that while our products deliver benefits, they can also pose a risk to health and the environment, and that it is our job to make sure that that risk is minimized and addressed in a very responsible way. We continue to innovate in the development of our products and reduce the content of mercury. Over the past 40 years, we've reduced that by a factor of 50, so 50 times less mercury today compared to 40 years ago. At the same time, we set up a dedicated product category under the WEEE directive. We've set up dedicated producer responsibility organizations across Europe, so Lighting Europe members help set up and contribute to the work of the members of EucoLight across Europe. And of course, we have in EucoLight a partner to also work together at European level. And the next slide, please. We also work with EucoLight to address our obligations to communicate information to recyclers on how to best treat our products. And on the EucoLight website, you will find 8 product sheets addressing both lamps and luminaires and providing information in line with the Article 15 requirements of the WEEE directive. Next, please. And I think it's important that when we take a moment to celebrate an important milestone like today, we take stock of the progress, but we also look forward. We look to the past, get energy, and then look to the future and think what lies ahead, what are the challenges, and how will Lighting Europe, EucoLight, and regulators work together to address these. The first main change is technology driven, very frankly. Like I mentioned earlier, the transition to LED technology is happening, it's on the ground, the numbers show it, the amount of conventional technology products being placed on the EU market continues to decrease, and they are replaced by LED products which show a longer life, are more durable, and also deliver more savings. In Lighting Europe membership, if you look at the product portfolio across all our members, about 90% of it is LED. So really you see that the industry has transitioned to LED technology, and now we spend most of our energy communicating with the market, with the people who will install lighting in metro stations, in office buildings, in public buildings, in schools, hospitals, to explain to them what their alternatives are, what the right option for them is, to help them choose the next best LED-based lighting system, and to help them also amass the resources, the finances that are needed in order to transition to the next better technology. And that's really important for us. We want everybody to feel comfortable, to understand their options, to make a choice that they are comfortable with, and to be able to finance it and get the next best thing. No stockpiling and nobody left behind. Next slide, please. This market drive is also very much supported by regulations in the EU. There's a clear phase-out timetable for conventional products. It was adopted by national governments. It was voted upon back in December 2018, following a consultation of all stakeholders, so not just lighting manufacturers, but also the users, the customers of these products, and based on the third-party expertise of the availability of substitutes, the rate of transitioning, and the rate of the market. And it was there that it was decided that already as of September this year, we will conclude the phase out of the remaining halogen lamps. We will also phase out the CFL integrated lamps and some fluorescent tubes. And there's a next wave planned for September 2023 to phase out another section of very widely used fluorescent tube lamps. Again, this is a decision made by national governments, and our role in Lighting Europe, like I said, is first of all to communicate to the market, to explain to them that this timetable is happening and to help them transition. We don't want stockpiling, we want people to transition. And we also collaborate with our partners across the planet in other regions, working with associations like Lighting Europe in other parts of the world to communicate to suppliers across the global market and the global manufacturing scene that these products will be banned in Europe and should no longer be made available on the European market. Next slide, please. In terms of removability, repairability, I think it's fair to say that a light bulb is probably one of the most easily recognizable, exchangeable components, and actually it's become a phrase in some parts of the world of making something as simple and as easy as changing a light bulb. So clearly that element is integrated in that specific product. In luminaires as well, that remains an important part of what we do, of the design process of luminaires, and it's actually a new mandatory requirement in the eco-design rules for lighting to have components, light sources, and control gear that can be removed and can be replaced, and to provide information to the customer about whether that is possible, so that the customer can choose a product that has that feature if that's important to them. Next slide, please. And it's for this reason that both EucoLight and Lighting Europe question the value of modulating waste fees for lighting. Like I said, the market drive is there. It's significant. We are at 90% LED-based products anyway in the producer's portfolio. There is a clear framework for transitioning already driven by the market, plus by existing rules from Europe. So eco-design, ROS, also green public procurement requirements. We really question the value of eco-modulating fees for lighting. It's already a very complex system because of so many different products and so many different applications. Adding an eco-modulation element would add to the complexity, and we're not really sure that it would have any impact, frankly, on consumer behavior. They are anyway moving towards LEDs. Coming up next, we are in Lighting Europe, and together with EucoLight, focusing a lot on the EU Green Deal and the proposals that we expect to see coming out of the European Commission and out of discussions with the Parliament and in the Council about how to deliver more sustainable products. A lot of these elements are part of the discussions already for many years in Lighting Europe in terms of durability, energy efficiency, repairability, providing light as a service, and we continue to engage with regulators to provide our expertise and to think in-house, what can we do for our products, for our technology in order to deliver on the EU green ambition. What's important to us is, first of all, that whatever rules come out in the EU are innovation proof. So regulators should give all companies a clear target of what it is we should be achieving, and then allow everybody the room to innovate in their product design and their technology to achieve that objective in whatever way they want. That's what will help stimulate innovation and I guess bring more value to Europe. And also what's important to us is to be sure that there's a clear strategic framework for this conversation. That means that the legislations and requirements come out one after the other in a structured way, building into what is already there as a regulatory framework, so that companies can follow, can adapt, and can deliver and be compliant with a lot of the requirements. Next slide, please. And finally, last but not at all least, we have one big opportunity today in Europe with the Digital Services Act to make sure, in the words of the Commission President, Mrs. von der Leyen, that what is illegal offline is also illegal online. EucoLight has done a great job in highlighting the problem of free riding online. Frankly, the requirements to our understanding in Lighting Europe and for EucoLight are very simple. All products made available on the market, whether online or offline, need to contribute a WE fee. All suppliers of these products, whether online or offline, need to be registered with the WE registry. And market surveillance authorities tell us that when they try to pursue online free riding, they often come across the obstacle of the supplier or the economic operator is not based in the EU jurisdiction, and therefore there's nothing they can do about it. So the fundamental requirement we need to now address in the Digital Services Act is making sure that there's always someone who is within the EU jurisdiction who can be held liable for all these obligations, who market surveillance authorities can swiftly and forcefully enforce all requirements against. And I take this opportunity to invite you next week on the 18th of February to a panel discussion that Lighting Europe is hosting, where we'll have a member of Cabinet of Commission Vice President Vestager, a member of European Parliament, the consumer associations, the toys industry, and the lighting industry, and we'll be reviewing these proposals, this first draft text of the Digital Services Act, to understand to what extent it prevents non-compliant products from being placed on the market. In closing, I'd like to thank you all for being here today to celebrate with us. I'm sorry that also that we've missed the opportunity of a nice glass of something or other a bit later in the day. A warm thank you to all the partners and friends in EucoLight and across Europe for all the work you've been doing, working with Lighting Europe member manufacturers to deliver on our obligations. Here's for the 2 billion lamps, and here's to 2 billion more and all the other challenges we have ahead of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Urania for highlighting the lighting producer's responsibility to contribute to circular economy and showing us the path forward for more sustainability and the key issues of the current times. At this moment of time, we are very honored to welcome the representative of the European Commission, Maria Banti. Maria is Policy Officer at the Directorate General for Environment at the European Commission. And Maria will guide us today through the current status of the WEEE directive and the perspectives for the lighting industry. So, Maria, the floor is yours.
Maria, we do not hear you. Maybe your
Maria,
microphone is off.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, much better. Thank you, Maria.
It's much better. Can you also see me or not?
Both. We see you and hear you perfectly. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. And I'm sorry for that. It's some technical problems this morning. Thank you so much for inviting me and for having me here today to celebrate with you the 2 million lamp recycling. It is a great achievement, and we are really happy to join you in this event today. If I may start my presentation with some, in the next slide please, with some general principles that we have also shared other speakers before, just to make sure that we all set the same ground. We needed to have electronics and electrical and electronic products in general under the circular economy for all the reasons that we know very well. There are hazardous materials in there in some cases, there are precious materials. We need to keep all these materials outside the landfill and bring it to the proper treatment and recycling facilities, both for the improvement of environmental, but also for health related issues. In the next slide, if I may start presenting a bit of the more general view with some statistics coming from worldwide. It's almost 53.6 million of electronic waste that is generated around the world, and from this is about 1 million is lamps. It's a significant amount, and it is noted, and lighting products as well. In the EU, the relevant EU data is around 2 million tons of WEEE generated in 2020, and is expected actually that between 2014 and 2030, the amount globally of WEEE to be generated will actually double. In the next slide, we have, let's say, the general framework in a few bullets of the current situation in the WEEE legislation, or what are the collection targets and what is the reality today. We know that the WEEE directive has set up ambitious targets for collection. The 65% of the equipment that has been placed on the market, or the 85% of WEEE generated. And we see in the graph that actually we are a bit far away, may still, from this target, but we also see the significant increase of collection over the last 18 years when the WEEE legislation exists, starting from 300,000 tons in 2005 to more than 4.5 million WEEE collected in 2018. In the next slide, I have a few more statistics, in particular for lighting equipment and the lamps included. The collected amount as a percentage of the total we collected, it's one can say it's only 2.6% of the total we collected. This is weight, but indeed, if you compare a lamp with a fridge, you understand that, okay, the differences are quite significant in terms of weight. So indeed, the effort of producer responsibility organizations for small equipment, lamps in particular, had been really, really significant to reach higher and higher collection rates. And in the graph, we can actually see that the collection of both of lamps is quite stable, and lighting equipment is really increasing significantly over the last years. In the next slide, I have also put a few figures in relation to recycling. We have heard from the producer responsibility organizations indeed that they achieve a very high recycling rate. So the critical factor here is the collection, because at the moment the equipment is collected, indeed the recycling industry today can achieve a high recycling rate in order to achieve the targets of the WEEE legislation. In the next slide, I would like to point the role of the producer responsibility organizations. You are all very kind today to say that all your results and how you contributed to the significant amount of 2 billion lamps, but we need to see how much you have also invested behind in terms of money, of course, and effort. And so we see the PROs, the Extended Producer Responsibility Schemes, and the Producer Responsibility Organizations to have a vital role in the achievements of the WEEE directive. First of all, they have a vital role in assisting authorities with the financing of waste management, and they have contributed significantly to awareness campaigns. They have targeted media campaigns. They have developed applications, platforms in order to aware citizens, to make them bring the equipment back. And of course, they have developed a big network of collection points around each one of the member states in order to enable the citizens to find easily a place to discard the old lamps or luminaries. So actually, the PROs create the fundamental link between all parts of the value chain. And this is, for us, their main role, and it's the added value actually for having them into this chain. Of course, they have a lot of responsibilities. Rania before actually also pointed quite a few. It's from all the responsibilities coming from the WEEE directive to finance the collection and recycling, to provide information, to register, to report to the authorities on the quantities placed on the market, we collected everything. It's also the eco-design responsibility. We have heard before, indeed, that now also under the new circular economy action plan, we have more and more the principles of removability, of repairability, durability of products to be integrated into the different policies. And to this, the role of producers and, of course, the feedback from PROs are really very, very significant. In the next slide, please. Yes, I'm sorry, this I've already said. Yes, in the next one. If we just focus on the WEEE directive, as I have already said, the main challenge that actually the producers had to face and the PROs was that since 2018, the scope of the directive is broader. So actually now we expect that all lamps and all different kinds of luminaries, large, small, they all fall into the scope of the directive, and the recycling facilities need to achieve a specific recycling rate. But as I've said at the beginning with the data in the slide, these recycling rates are already achieved. So the main element again for this is how to increase collection. And in the next slide, please. If we may say it's not really a challenge, but let's say the new environment of conditions, of working conditions for the EPR schemes and producer responsibility organizations that have been set out by the Waste Framework Directive, even though I must say that we EPROs have actually implemented all these, almost all these principles, but in general, let's put also a specific focus on the fact that the EPR schemes need to have clear roles and responsibility in order to achieve their targets. They need to establish reporting systems, as I said, to have a clear information flow of what is placed on the market, collected and treated. But they also need to ensure the equal treatment and non-discrimination of products and of producers. In particular, for producer responsibility organizations, they need to have clearly defined coverage, geographical products, materials. EucoLight lighting industry is such an example. They need to provide appropriate availability for collection systems and to inform the users. These are the main element, as I said, for collection. And indeed, we need to see more and more. We are here, of course, to celebrate these great achievements, but we all understand that in order to achieve the targets of the legislation, the efforts need to be continued. The producers, they have put in place financial means to meet the obligations, and they need to also have control mechanisms in order to ensure transparency. And so also as a general approach for PROs, we also see the need for an independent monitoring in case there are multiple producer responsibility organizations in a member state. All these general principles in the next slide, please, they are they will be further developed under the APR, the Extended Producer Responsibility Guidelines, that are actually under preparation. Actually, they will be published soon as possible, early in 2021, this year. But indeed, what I wanted to point into these guidelines, it's the eco-modulation that we have heard also before, that the necessary costs that need to be covered, and the issue of free riders, which actually we know that EucoLight and the lighting industry has put a lot of effort to that, and we do appreciate a lot the discussions that we have shared and your input towards that direction. As I said, the guidelines will be expected soon, and we hope that it will be an additional tool to support the producer responsibility organizations and the EPR schemes. In closing, I would like to thank you very much for the invitation. In the next slide, you have my contact details. We are always very happy to receive feedback from your side on any issues and to continue the discussion about the challenges that are coming in the future and the new elements that we may need to put in place in order to achieve our targets. Thank you very much. Congratulations for all the efforts and the achievements so far, and wish you all the best for the next. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria, really, for having guided us to the status of the WE directive and highlighted the important figures of collection rate, but also showed us very interesting figures concerning the recycling performance, notably of gas discharge lamps that I see, and you stressed that the target of the 80% recycling was reached for lamps, as you mentioned, and also, this is very important for us, the importance of PROs as vital links within all actors, needless to say that we appreciate that you have recognized the efforts put on some files like the online free riding. Thank you very much. At this moment of time, I would like to say that we are also very honored to have the presence through a video that you will see in a minute from Mrs. Simona Bonafè, member of the European Parliament. Simona ran for her second mandate as a member of the European Parliament in May 2019. In the European Parliament, Simona is a vice president of the Progressive Alliance of Socialists and Democrats in charge of parliamentary affairs and institutional relations. She sits in the Committee for the Environment, Public Health and Food Safety, ENVI Committee, and also substitute member in the Committee ITRE for Industry and Research and Energy. Importantly, Simona Bonafè has been the rapporteur of the revision of 4 directives containing in the circular economy package and for the water reuse regulation. Before the European Parliament, member of the Parliament Simona Bonafè was elected in the Italian lower chamber in 2013. I invite you all to watch the message Mrs. Bonafè has recorded specially for our webinar today.
Good morning to everyone. First of all, I wish to thank EucoLight for inviting me to take part in this event. I take the occasion of this discussion on the positive experience of the lighting sector in the field of sustainability to share with you my perspective on circular economy and give you some updates on the ongoing work of the European Parliament. In the last 40 years, the annual global extraction of materials tripled, and by 2050 we will be consuming 3 times the resources produced by our planet. Furthermore, half of total greenhouse gases emission and more than 90% of biodiversity loss and water stress come from resources extraction and processing. This will not stop unless we undertake structural changes. Our natural resources are finite, and climate change is an undeniable threat. We have no alternative to acting and moving from a linear model based on a take, make and dispose approach to a circular one, aiming at maintaining the value of products, materials and resources for as long as possible, thus enabling us to save materials and energy and prevent us from introducing polluting products and substances to the environment. This is even more urgent now when Europe finds itself in the midst of an unprecedented health and economic crisis, a crisis that has revealed the fragility of our value chain and our natural resources supplies, highlighting the exposure of our economy in terms of competitiveness and the ability of a circular model to provide solutions. With the Next Generation EU plan, the European Union is responding in an unprecedented way to an unprecedented challenge. The amount of economic resources that will be mobilized in the upcoming years is not only essential for the recovery of our societies, but represents also an unprecedented opportunity to direct this recovery in terms of sustainability, thus benefiting next generation and the overall competitiveness of our continent. In this regards, the principles of circular economy must be the core element both of European and national industry policy and of the national recovery and resilience plans of member states. This week, we are voting the new Circular Economy Action Plan in the plenary. This is an important resolution to pave the way for the future legislative measures, particularly in the area of product design. After the work of the waste package done in the previous mandate, the new Circular Economy Action Plan is going to contribute to the climate neutrality goal defining in the Green Deal, and will stress on the preventive actions to undertaken specifically through product design, waste prevention and management. In this regards, we will need to focus on reducing products' environmental footprint through measures taking into consideration the entire product, the life cycle. Consumers have a key role in the transition towards a circular economy, not only in terms of prevention when they choose their products, but also of waste management. Member states have to continue awareness campaign to product sustainability, consumption, and accessible and easy to understand guidance for the consumers to prevent and sort correctly their waste. If we consider the sector of lighting as an example, we find interesting figures in this regard in the survey conducted at the beginning of 2020 in Austria, Germany, Italy, Netherlands and other countries, and commissioned by members of EucoLight. This survey shows clearly that although a high percentage of citizens are aware of the need to recycle waste, electrical and electronic items, and know where to recycle, there is a strong demand for further information. Today we celebrate the important goal of 2 billion lamps recycled in Europe. This is an amazing example of the potential of the circular economy when all stakeholders are involved to cooperate positively. For this result, I wish to congratulate the lighting sector and all the citizens that contributed. This simple action of dropping, a lamp light in the appropriate box is simple but essential, and we must do our best to keep on spreading information and awareness. As I mentioned before, through the waste package, Europe has set ambitious targets for the coming years, such as recycling targets of 65% for municipal waste and the limit of maximum of 10% of waste treated in landfill by 2035. As our friends from EucoLight know very well, quality separate collection of waste is the prerequisite of high-quality recycling. This is why we need to further harmonize the existing separate collection systems and ensure proper implementation of the provisions laid down in the Waste Framework Directive. EPR schemes have already demonstrated to be an important instrument to ensure high-quality recycling rates. I reiterate my call to Member States for a swift and clear transposition of the 2018 legislation, in particular as regards the minimum requirements for extended producer responsibility. While we ensure that the necessary infrastructure are in place to make this happen, we need to be aware that in order to reach these numbers, the EU must also set clear prevention targets on waste, moving away from landfill anytime that alternative sustainable waste management technologies exist. Implementing the prevention of the waste goes hand in hand with broadening the scope of the Eco-Design Directive to introduce non-energy related products and setting standards for durability, reusability, repairability, upgradability and recyclability, resources and energy efficiency. The sooner the Commission presents a proposal, the better. Lamp lights have been already an excellent example in the past. So the circular economy will not thrive on a top-down approach and is in need of all stakeholders' engagement for the implementation of the Circular Economy Action Plan 2.0. I look forward to further cooperation on this essential challenge and wish you a good continuation of the discussion.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Bonafè. Thank you for taking the time through your messages. We know that you are very busy this week with your parliamentary activities and notably with the EU Circular Economy Action Plan and other files. Thank you also for having showed reference to the awareness efforts from EucoLight members. You quoted an interesting survey that was done last year. And published at the beginning of this year, and also highlighting the fact that quality separate collection is essential for quality recycling. And at this moment, we still have a bit of time, so you may have seen, dear panelists, that there were some questions asked by our attendees. I saw in particular a question at the beginning of the webinar concerning collection and recycling targets. I think we know that LAMP's scheme reach the collection targets and have still a lot to do, but are performing quite well. And also you could see from the statistics shown by Mrs. Banti that for the recycling of lamps, the targets are reached with, if I'm correct, more than 80% recycling on the quantities collected. There were also some comments in the chat box in the Q&A session. Maybe some of the panelists want to reply. I think there was an exchange, and notably Mr. Pedro Nazareth from Electrão in Portugal commented on the importance of PRO. Who wants to take the floor from the panelists who are live with us to answer? Maria, maybe from Pedro's comment, or if we are still with us? Or Hervé, who wants to answer to some of the questions asked in the Q&A box?
Yes, sure, if I may.
Yes, Maria.
Mark, thank you. Yes, indeed. Thank you also for all the comments. If I saw correctly, I mean, it's indeed the PROs had an extremely significant role also in bringing together the different actors. And we fully agree that the achievement of the targets, it's not a single achievement. It cannot be said that okay, producers can do it themselves alone, or recyclers or the authorities. Indeed, it's a common effort, and it's really very important to bring all actors together in this chain. But what I wanted in particular to point that it's the PROs for us in the context of the legislation seems to be a kind of the link or the platform where we can all join, or how different actors cooperate. Thank you.
Is there any other question that our members would like to answer the panelists? Yes, Hervé,
yeah,
please.
Yeah, dear Mark, and thank you, Pedro, for your question, and Maria for your answer. But for sure that we need that all actors are deeply involved in the efforts to collect and recycle as many lamps as we can, that's for sure. And we need also, as you understood today, that if we reach the 2 billion lamps collection, it's thanks to the efforts made every day by all our participants, members, and the financing from the producers. And if we reach such a high quantity of lamps, it is because we have spent, and we still spend a lot of effort and money deploying network, which is very convenient for consumers, deploying communication to increase awareness. And one of my fears I share with my colleagues from EucoLight is, considering that the end-of-life cost is getting higher and higher, it is not acceptable anymore that some producers do not finance the collection and recycling schemes. Therefore, we really need an enforcement for the platform where sellers from abroad Europe sells products like lamps, more and more LED lamps, easy to send to ship from abroad, and which are escaping the obligation to finance the end of life of a product. And it is something we have to really highlight. And maybe, Mary, if you can tell us what, Maria, what are in the pipe at the Commission to tackle this subject, the online free riding.
Yeah, sure. Well, as I mentioned, it is part also of the EPR guidelines. It will be part of the EPR guidelines to be prepared, but it's also in the past we had specific workshops. I mean, under the WE directive, in order to see exactly the level of how strong this problem is, and to see what could be our next steps. We are in cooperation also under the Circular Economy Action Plan with our colleagues in different DGs, DG Connect, DG Grow as well, because they are leading, let's say, the discussions in relation to the role of marketplaces and the new rules that can be set for online sellers. This is what I can say is that this is something that it is on our table. It has been there for some time. We have been exchanging on that, and we follow in particular that developments now from the side of electrical and electronic equipment.
Thank you, Maria.
Yeah, thank you.
If I can add to that, please, Maria, also from my side, very good to hear, and thank you for all the support we're getting from you and your colleagues to help address this problem. I'd like to go back to a question raised by Thomas Schumme, who's also in the chat, where he asks us about what we think of the idea of compulsory verification and the proposals that are coming out in Germany. On behalf of Lighting Europe, I have to say that I'm very happy to see that there are governments across Europe who are deciding to take some kind of action to close the loop and to make sure that whatever product is made available online complies with all requirements, including WE. And actually, we did a little market exercise of our own in Lighting Europe, and we just checked on a couple of marketplaces for a specific type of light bulb and a specific type of luminaire, and we took the top 20 results that the engine gives us. So we didn't choose whatever came out first, we took it, checked them for compliance with basic requirements, and none of them satisfied the WE requirements. In France, all luminaires we checked, none of them were on the WE registry, none of them contributed a fee. So proposals such as those coming out of Germany are a very welcome step to close that loop and to make sure that everybody is contributing and doing their part for the planet. And I like to hope that we will find a harmonized approach across Europe as well. I think the Digital Services Act is the opportunity we have to fix our e-commerce liability scheme and our supply chain obligations in e-commerce, make it fit for the 21st century, especially lately when we all tend to click and purchase online with few other options. Thank you.
Dear Rania, there was a question also on LED product design for circularity. I think you answered somehow in your presentation, but you would like to comment from the producer side.
Absolutely. I just need to find that if you help me. I think it's a comment from the UK.
Correct, but since it's
circular...
anonymous, I don't know who it is, so I will not further comment on the country mentioned. But I would like to know about circularity of LED products. Yes, not only for recycling is mentioned. So I wanted to pick that up.
So
yeah.
I think that the whole question is about to what extent can we reuse and extend the service life of lighting products, and like I said, in particular, luminaires is what I take from that question, and that is a big part of the conversations we have in Lighting Europe today. And there is actually a lot of good discussions happening. In Lighting Europe, we work with, for example, lighting designers associations to have that conversation. We work with installers as well and wholesalers to understand what people are looking for and what customers are asking for, because as manufacturers, we sit on our side of the corner, but it's good to hear feedback from the ground, from other parts of the lighting supply chain. And we look to develop the products and the business models that would deliver on that objective. Like I said, light as a service was an idea that has been around in the lighting industry for a while, has not significantly picked up, I have to say. It's been installed as a model in some places, but it's not very widely spread yet, and perhaps that's something that will be moving forward. But increasingly, we see an interest from customers to understand better the durability and the reusability of their products, and it would be interesting to see if we can develop those kinds of markets, so to help people understand and feel confident that a product they get has had a long service life and can continue to do that. So absolutely, very big part of what we do in Lighting Europe today. We have a working group dedicated specifically to sustainability questions for lighting, and we look to develop something that is, like I said, innovation proof and environmentally friendly.
Thank you very much, Rania, for those explanations. I think it will be very interesting for the audience on those developments that Lighting Europe is working on, and the producers, obviously. Now, dear attendees, at this moment when we are going soon to end the webinar today, devoted to the remarkable achievements on reaching the 2 billion lamps recycled, I would like to make just a few summary comments, if you allow me. So it will just take a few minutes of your time. So in summary, I would like to just put the light on few elements. Next slide, please. Now, I will not repeat the webinar, don't worry. What I want to say is that I'm very proud on behalf of all EucoLight members for the 2 billion lamp recycled. This is a recycling milestone by their members with Eurocon. This means a lot, has been highlighted by several speakers. Neutralization of hazardous substances like mercury, valuable raw material recovered, rare earths, aluminium, just to take a few, high collection rate performance and recycling, in particular mentioned 80% of gas discharge lamp recycling in the EU 27 in 2018 by the Commission. And as mentioned by Mrs. Bonafè, separate collection is a key element of quality recycling. And do you know that EucoLight members have set up 127,000 dedicated collection points in municipality, retailers, and users? That's quite a lot. Raising awareness, that's also a key mission of our members. And Mrs. Bonafè has rightly quoted this study done and issued in the beginning of 2020, which shows that around 80% of European citizens correctly identified the right places for disposal. And we know that also there is a need for more information, so on which our members work and are we busy with. Finally, an essential aspect mentioned by Mrs. Panti has been the proactive role that PROs play in the implementation of extended producer responsibility and the circular economy throughout Europe. To finish, as an association with interacting with policymakers, I would like to put the light on just a few key messages. We have some needs to continue this success story. One, mentioned by Mrs. Bunty, highlighted strongly by Urania from Lighting Europe, online sales should comply with EPR rules. It's no longer possible that some producer pay the management cost and some other not. Sellers of online products should contribute to the WIFIs, register to producer responsibility organization. And yes, the legislation need to address the online free riding issue, both at EU level and at national level. From that perspective, as mentioned, the Digital Services Act appears like an opportunity to clarify the liability of operators, who is responsible at the end. Next slide, please. One key aspect to continue the success story has to do with the enforcement of legislation. For example, the PROs must report to the national registers placed on the market figures, but they should do it in our recommendation on an individual producer basis to avoid the risk of misdeclaration. This is the spirit of the legislation. Individual producer, no bulk reporting. And member states, we think, should reinforce the role of national registers of producers. This is very important, and the national registers of producers are themselves excellent actors to fight against free riding. So this is part of the recommendation of EucoLight for the next legislative steps. Finally, very practical aspect linked to the logistics. We have a key message here. All lamps, whatever the technology, should be collected in the same container. Consumers, a study has shown it in 2017 by GfK as well, that consumer can't distinguish between the different types of lamps. So we recommend that member states should ensure that all types of lamps, should it be LED or gas discharge lamps, are collated in the same containers. That was the short messages I wanted to provide to you on behalf of EucoLight. At this moment of time, I think we are approaching the end of our webinar. And I would like to make a few thanks to everyone. First, to our attendees, and especially to our speakers and panelists today. This webinar was a joint project amongst our members, and the idea was born inside the Marketing and Communication Working Group. And I would like to pay a special tribute to David Arcajada for that reason, who led us to this project. I would like to thank all panelists for their great presentations. And I would like to make as well a special thank to a person, Mrs. Susan Castin from EucoLight, for her tremendous help in the coordination and the technical aspects of today's webinar. And also to Mrs. Urania Georgiou-Stachou for her wise advice on how to proceed. Finally, I would like to remind you all that the video of the webinar will be put on the EucoLight website, and the slides of today will be available to the attendees. And that concludes for my part, the webinar of today, celebrating the milestones of the 2 billion lamps recycled. If anyone from our panelists want to have a last word, with pleasure.
Oh, shit. Excuse me, dear Mark, thank you for your last word. Just say that it is a huge achievement. We are all very proud, and it is the result of a collective effort involving producers, but not only all stakeholders, municipalities, distributors, and even though we are asking for more and more support from the administration, the Commission, thanks also to their support to conduct this very, I would say, great job we are doing for to build a more circular economy in the lighting industry. Thank you all, and have a nice day, and take care of all of you and your relatives in this very specific context of the COVID disease. Thank you.
Bye-bye all. We are going to disconnect now. Thank you.